I'd like to call to order the work session on March 25th, 2019. Everyone is here. Councilmember Stipp is on the phone. Are you there, Bill? Hello, Councilmember Stipp?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Great, thank you very much. All right, we're going down to the first presentation, and of course that is the City Council will receive a presentation on a public-private partnership for the City Hall, and our City Manager, Julie Arundel, is going to present. And are you going to wait to the second meeting to do the introduction? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'll be presenting a new opportunity to pursue a long-awaited City Hall project through a public-private partnership. Goodyear has envisioned a City Hall project since 1984. So for 35 years, this has been a conversation for our city. So the then council in 1984 purchased 40 acres at the corner of Bullard and I-10. In 1987, that land was transferred and traded for 36 acres at the corner of Reams and Yuma. And of course, Reams was then renamed to Estrella Parkway. So for the past 35 years, a City Hall project has been started and stalled 5 times. We've had 4 different citizens committees study the project, and reports have been compiled by Arizona State University, the Urban Land Institute, and various others. Each committee, study, and project have had very similar themes. The first theme is to create dedicated space designed for consolidated public services. The city purchased an interim City Hall in 2001 at the corner of Litchfield and Van Buren. And it's starting to show its age and needs reinvestment and expansion if we're going to consider staying there. We also have public-facing departments such as the library and the development continuum at the Goodyear Municipal Complex. We've also been making do with space not designed for public purpose. And one example of that would be this room. Council Chambers shares this space with the City Municipal Court, and technology has been a challenge because this room was not designed specifically to be City Council Chambers. Consolidating these public-facing departments in purpose-designed space will allow us to better serve our residents. It will also create daytime density in one central area of the city, which is important to activate economic development, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. The second theme throughout the last 35 years was to create a gathering place for public events, to create the heart of the community. So Goodyear is a relatively new community, and each citizens committee along the way identified the need to create the heart of Goodyear, a public place to gather with friends and family for festivals, concerts, parades, and such. This space would create a sense of pride and create a hometown feel for our growing community. The third common theme was to create economic vitality through a mixed-use development. So each citizens committee expressed the desire to have the City Hall project contain mixed-use components for the gathering space I just described to be surrounded by offices, restaurants, retail, and entertainment. So the new opportunity I'm here to discuss this evening is a public-private partnership with the Globe Corporation. And the Globe Corporation is a family-owned business who owns approximately 47 acres on 150th Drive between McDowell and Monte Vista, and I'll show a map in a moment. This opportunity would pivot the City Hall project from the existing location at Yuma and Estrella Parkway to these property at the corner of the Estrella Falls regional area. And as a side note, there was a study in 2014 by the Urban Land Institute that recommended exactly such a move. The public-private partnership opportunity would be to build a city hall with the library, a 2-acre park for civic activities and events, and a Class A speculative office building. I want to take a moment and talk about what Class A is and why it would be important to this project. So Class A is a real estate term that describes a high-end office product that is not currently available in Goodyear. In fact, it's really not available in the West Valley. It commands the highest rents and are usually occupied by prestigious tenants. A large majority of Class A office locates want currently available space. And in fact, GPEC currently has 100 locates looking for space, and 82% of them, or 82, one existing space, and that simply does not exist in the city of Goodyear, so we're unable to attract those high-end office users. Speculative refers to building a project without a specific tenant in mind. So what this is proposing in the first phase of this opportunity would be that the Globe Corporation would put up a speculative office building, a Class A office building, and that would make this space available for these potential locates to come to our community, bringing in these types of tenants and again creating this density at this location. So this map reflects the entire 47 acres owned by the Globe Corporation. Let me use this right here. So you can see this is McDowell Road here on the south. This is the Bullard Wash up to the west, Monte Vista to the north, and this is 150th Drive down to the east alongside with the Harkins. The area focus for this presentation is contained within this red dotted area. However, the remainder of the site could support mixed uses such as, but not limited to, restaurant, retail, office, general commercial, and high-density residential. Globe and city staff believe that the public investment on the City Hall project would be the catalyst to activate this entire area. I'd also like to point out that in the Bullard Wash, this is the amphitheater right there. So with that, I'd like to present the concept for the City Hall project. So this conceptual drawing, that's courtesy of Mary, my assistant.
Yeah, give Mary that credit. That was Mary. Yeah.
So this is the conceptual drawing for the Goodyear Civic Square at Estrella Falls, a public gathering place unique and walkable with a mix of office, retail, and restaurant when completed. It shows 2 areas of open space that can be used for public events such as the festivals, concerts, and parades previously mentioned, creating a true sense of community. So if we look at the first phase of this potential project, this would be the City Hall building. It would be a stately 5-story building that faces the Wash to the west, and then it would have this 2-acre open space in front. We envision that the first floor would contain a library, and we receive 140 visitors annually to our library. We also see that perhaps on the other side, and this would be one building, but perhaps with a breezeway, again, keep in mind this is conceptual, that the city council chambers could be on the first floor on the other side. The first phase would also contain the speculative Class A office building, which is envisioned to be this building to the north of the 2-acre open space, and it would be 3 stories. So you can see how this type of density, so you have the library with 140,000 visitors annually, you have the city government workers, let's say 500 employees, and then another 500 employees in the office building. You can see how we've now created a space where retail, restaurants, entertainment businesses would want to locate and what our current residents are hungry for. It's easy to picture how you could get an ice cream shop or a dry cleaner or a coffee house with that type of density. So to see this vision in action, here is the real town square for Southlake, Texas. It's a similar concept with the City Hall as the core of the square, 2 acres of public space with office and mixed uses surrounding it. So this gives a visual of how it can be activated. And this, we've measured, this is actually a 2-acre space. They've included a lake and a gazebo, but you can see how this could be truly activated to create a heart of a community. So the potential deal points for this public-private partnership would be that the Globe Corporation would donate up to 7 acres to create the City Hall building, the 2 acres of space, and the parking required for our facility. Our estimated costs for this project are $83 million, and the voters have already approved a City Hall street infrastructure project with bond authority up to $53 million. So the balance would come from a dedication of our one-time revenues through the city's CIP program. The next step would be to form a letter of intent with the Globe Corporation and then to move into programming and design. And we would propose that we leverage the work that's been previously done and not start from the beginning. We believe that there's been a lot of studies and the themes are all very similar. We believe we can take the work that's been done, reprogram it, just make sure it's good and move forward. This entire site, the 47 acres, would have a planned area development, and we would have a development agreement with the Globe Corporation. So if council agrees this is the right time and the right place and the right partner, we can pick up where we left off and potentially have a grand opening ribbon cutting for the Goodyear Civic Square at Estrella Falls in the summer of 2022. And this concludes my presentation. I'd be pleased to open it for council discussion.
Well, council, I'm going to ask you to set, but I'm going to give Bill just the first, he's on, and it may not happen all evening. I may not remember, as you all know, but right now I did. So, Councilmember Stipp, you're on to make comments on this presentation.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea, and I have no further questions.
You want to wait till you hear the other questions, or you have questions?
No, ma'am, I have no further questions other than other than my statement of I think it's a great idea.
Thank you very much. I think that starts off this conversation pretty special. All right, Councilman Loretano.
Julie, thank you so much and your team for coming up with this idea, looking at this idea. This is the first big committee I sat on with the mayor 14, 15 years ago. And, and I am so glad that we're going to move forward. So I love this idea. I think it's a great idea, great partnership. Bring the people in that area, and I think it'll be great for even the mall site and everything. I do have questions. Do we have a plan or an idea what we would do with this complex, City Hall complex, the land that's there? What's kind of the plan for that?
So what we've initially talked about is having all of the public-facing city departments at the new City Hall. So it would include all of the current uses over at the interim City Hall and also the development continuum. We believe we would, and the library. We believe we would intend to leave public safety where it is. Those buildings have been customized for their purposes already. And of course, Public Works has a dedicated building for their purposes. The existing interim City Hall, I believe that we would potentially look to sell that building. And I think that we'd potentially look to keep the buildings here at the municipal complex for future economic development purposes.
And how about the land? Is that something we would look to turn in with the park, or any ideas on what
So
we
the
would do
old
with
city center land?
Yeah.
Okay, so the old city center land is about 36 acres. We do own that property free and clear. There is a deed restriction for public purpose. So we do believe we could leverage that for potential economic development deals into the future. But we think that it's a valuable piece of land and a great location that we should retain for when the market's ready to activate that area of our city.
Great idea as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Hampton.
When you go back to that one, you said both those buildings on the left would be City Hall?
So this is conceptual, and what they had put together with this I believe would be one building with a breezeway. And the breezeway would activate the wash, which is where we have the amphitheater. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of buildings like this, they are technically separated at the first floor. So perhaps you have the entrance to the library and the council chambers coming from inside the breezeway. But then I do believe it would be connected at the above stories. But that, again, this is conceptual.
Okay, and then you're saying for this building there'd be about, the capacity would be about 500 people?
That wouldn't be the capacity. So at 125,000 square feet, 5 stories, it would be able to hold more than that. So it would be built for future growth of the city. We would not have all of our city employees there because, again, public safety and public works would be other locations.
But we'd be limited to once we hit capacity here, we'd be limited because there's no other city land around this part here. So we couldn't ever expand once we built it here because we were locked in around other Globe land.
That would be correct, although I believe that if we wanted to, we could also become tenants or purchase perhaps other office product from Globe at some point in the future. But you're correct. We would be originally starting by looking at the one City Hall building, the 2 acres, and then the parking. Now, the parking would be owned by the city, so there would be the potential at some point in the future to turn surface parking into a parking garage, which would create more land for us to build another building.
Okay, and then the Ballpark Land, So the ballpark land, do we have, how many acres are all around that city-owned land over there?
So the city owns 36 acres.
Total around that whole square, around the ballpark and everything else around there, just the 36 acres?
Correct. So the other land that had originally been envisioned, and I believe it was 140-acre city center project, the majority of that was owned by other users.
Okay. Okay. I guess the only thing I'm worried about is that we're going to run out of space with this. I mean, I like the idea that we're going to activate it. And when you say activate, is it activate just that section, or you foresee it activating the entire potential outdoor market type section near Harkins?
So when, and I'd like to, if I may, George Getz has arrived from the Globe Corporation. So if I can just pause and take a moment to introduce him. He is the director and president and co-CEO of the Globe Corporation. And so he wanted to be here for the presentation tonight. So just
Can we ask him to come join you for a moment, or?
would you like to come? If you want to have a seat. And you just
On the
go
spot, huh?
There we
Thank you
go.
so much for attending. I know you had a little traffic to get
Yeah,
here.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no, we understand that. So, and this, for me, the mayor, this is a very exciting time. So I would like all their questions to be answered. So you have some of those answers maybe that would be helpful. So
Sure. And so I'll start, and then if Mr. Getz would like to add. So I'll speak for city staff, but I also believe the conversations with Globe, we believe that not only will the area within this red dotted area be activated, we believe that it would not take long for this entire site to be activated. Some of the visions that we've talked about is this down here on the south end, McDowell. That would be a great site perhaps for a hotel/conference center. High-density housing is certainly part of what's going to be happening north of Monte Vista, perhaps a little bit on this site, but that really creates that density that those mixed uses are hungry for. Now, in our ideal world, it would also activate the site across 150th, but right now our focus is on the 47 acres contained within this drawing.
Okay. And you're saying I'm going back to the ballpark area, is that 40 acres the other half of the park right now, or you're talking about the retention basin area that's walled in right now on the northwest corner of Van Buren and Estrella? Or actually, I'm trying to make sure I get to
And
the
I'm
right
sorry,
idea.
that's a good point. I should clarify. So we had the 40 acres, it was 36, but I'll call it the 40 acres for the city center. But we also had the 86 acres for the rec campus. And so we've activated the first half of that rec campus. We have the remaining half that's available for activation, and then we have the city center
Okay.
Site. So I'm
if
sorry
I
to
can
clarify.
interject
and I-
there, if I could just interject there, since I work that, 40 acres for a municipality, and the 100 acres was donated for a park. The person that donated their land, was what the person viewed or her vision was that would be. And so, in fact, it is, we're able to do that now. So that's where the 140 acres came.
Okay. I guess, I like this here, but I'm also worried that we're going to run out of space and we have the space down. We can't expand past here. So I'm just thinking future growth, 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now, we have 40 acres down south there. And I just don't want to lose the opportunity to also have more growth potential down below, even though this is great. And I'd love to be able to do something like this, but I just wonder, because City Hall will be a permanent thing. And once we're locked in to that location, I don't see us growing. I don't see this being able to grow. I really like it, but that's my conflict, I guess. And I don't know. I'm not, because we already we're just separating our potential or our resources even more. I know the ballpark is one amenity. I know we're talking about maybe a potential university, and we have more leverage with more land down that way. But I guess that's where I'm kind of at right now. Is just I really like this, and if it goes forward, I think it would be okay. But I just wonder if we're getting real excited about this, but there might be more long-term viability with the 40 acres down south.
So if I could just add one more thing, and you mentioned the university. So for example, if we had a locate that came through economic development, whether it was a university or some other purpose, we believe we have a great partner in Globe that would then work with them to activate through their own arrangements this site. So with the 47 acres, I think that we're very open to what those potential uses could be, but you're correct, and it's almost the opposite of what the old proposal was, which was the city held the 40 acres to activate it. I think what's kind of nice about this proposal is that we have the private side would be activating the remainder of the site, certainly with the city's assistance, but it would fall on them to activate the remainder.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had anything you wanted to
Now,
jump
the
in.
other thing I might want to add, again, with this dense product that we're talking about, adding a bunch of office, which now that I drive out here this time of night, I wish most of these people stayed here instead of having to go into Phoenix and drive out. But, we're planning to have a fair amount of office space here. So I know City Hall is mostly, you're trying to design your own for your own needs, but planning for future needs, we hope to have plenty of office space that you could, if you needed it in the future, be able to grow into as well. So more on the lease side, but, potentially, we could take some of where the surface parking is shown there and create more structured parking and add some buildings in addition. So we've got plenty of land out there, and obviously we want to plan for the future.
Okay. Councilman
Thank you.
Loretano?
I just wanted to follow up on Councilmember Hampton's question, and you were here my earlier comment. I'm a supporter of this. I was on one of the earlier city Senate committees. I think this is a great plan. We're looking at about 10 stories of office space here. So I assume we're not going to be taking it all over day one, and it's not going to be full on day one. So I assume we're planning for growth, right?
So the City Hall project at 5 stories, I don't envision, at one point in time in some of the future conversations, there was an entire floor that would be empty. I don't believe that you would see an empty floor. I think that we'd be activating the building, but with room to grow.
Yeah. So
And the 3 stories for the Spec A office would be empty until such time as a tenant is secured. We believe that the market is such that it could potentially even be secured before it's built. That would be the ideal situation. And if that was to happen, I believe Globe would then move forward to building one of the other buildings on the square.
And I honestly don't think that's going to be a problem with our growth, because we're keeping public safety, we're keeping public works, we're keeping some of the departments here. So I think we'd be okay with an extended growth. Now, 60, 70 years from now, I don't think you can necessarily plan that far anyway, or 50 years from now, I think that's too much. And realistically, going up Estrella, I don't think anyone, I sat on that committee, and I'm sorry, what was envisioned is not going to happen in my lifetime, just from looking at it. I think this is, if we want to have a city center, we want to start getting some growth in restaurants and people and synergy, this is the way to go. That's just my thoughts.
Terry, so when you were on the committee, and we showed lots of photos and lots of pictures, so what you've seen tonight, was that kind of similar? Because I know we showed a number of city centers throughout the United States. So would you comment to that?
Yeah, I think this is, especially when you showed it activated, when you showed kind of the one from Texas, this is what we looked at. This is what the public wanted. We did a lot of vignettes with the little dots, and we had people coming in, and they took us on tours on everywhere from Peoria. I think we went to Westgate. And this is what people said they wanted. They wanted that mix of retail. They wanted that synergy. They wanted that gathering place. And I think we've got a great partner, and we don't have that partner on the Estrella property, and no one's coming to build. I mean, the economy's been booming, and no one's coming to want to build there right now. So I think that might be a great land to hold for something else when something else comes. But this is what people said they wanted. At least that's what I took away from it. And, when we did the community outreach and everything.
Councilman Basillo?
Well, everybody knows here that I've been a big proponent of gathering places. I thought that's one thing we never had in the city, and it's one thing that I really love about this project. I think as this builds, we needed something to jumpstart the area. And I really believe that this will do it. We need the people in place to get the synergy, because when you hear from the restaurants, the problem is day traffic. try to get in there at night, forget it. I mean, our restaurants are packed. We've got number one there for the pizza place. We've got, you go to Texas Roadhouse, they're adding people on there. Harkins has got, I think one of the top theaters in the state, standing out there by itself. So people want this. But the thing is during the day with the restaurants, to try to get more and more entertainment, we need more day traffic. And I think this is a great project to get it started. And I really appreciate Globe stepping up in this project because I really like the vision and I really love this picture. And I would love to see us have something like that where people could come, music festivals, draw them to the gathering place. You could have those festivals where you have those restaurant on wheels, they call them, whatever, and you come in and you got your music and et cetera. I can see a lot of things happening on that site, especially with it being the office, people hanging around to enjoy themselves. That's one thing I liked about Glendale, where they had an amphitheater right there at City Hall, and they do a lot of events there. People come and hang out there at the city and the glass place. So I'm very excited about getting this thing going. The only thing I ask is I'd love to see from the city. We got the bond capacity, but I'd love to see the financial plan on how we go about, coming up with another 33, whether it's selling our old City Hall building, setting that money aside and letting it grow, and setting money aside from our one time so we got cash to make up that difference, or maybe some other, kind of special finance. But I'd love to see those type of alternatives, how we can pull all of that stuff out. But I am really excited about this project.
Judy, could you just kind of talk once more about the bonding, about the money and amount? I know we weren't going to get into that, but there is sort of a sentence or two that will help them through this. I'd appreciate it.
So our preliminary costing for the type of project that we discussed.
Could you speak a little closer in the microphone?
So our preliminary pricing for this type of project that's been presented, we believe can be constructed by the city for $83 million. We have $53 million that's been previously approved by our voters for a City Hall street infrastructure project. So we can utilize that $53 million without increasing taxes. That would already be built into, it's already been considered in our secondary taxes. So that creates the difference of $30 million. And we are proposing to use one-time dollars out of our capital improvement program above and beyond our budget to fill that gap. So working with our finance department, we are very confident that we're well on our way to already filling that gap. Our intent, if council is interested in this proposal, is to go into executive session on April 1st to begin to formulate the letter of intent and go through the very specific details. But we do believe with all of the very special projects that have been coming to Goodyear above and beyond our current budget capacity, that it's creating the opportunity to make this happen and truly make it happen quickly if council so desires.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kano.
Well, I, for one, am very thankful that the mall was never built. I think that this is really a great opportunity. I want to thank you and Globe for the innovation, the creativity to come up with something that'll truly be a catalyst for our city. We're being able to create a heart of a community that has not existed. It's moved around through the years, but I think that's something that we've been missing. And as I look at this picture, it just kind of reminds me of Prescott. And one of the things I love to go up there for is whatever art thing or something going on, it's that square. And that's its identity, and it has such a huge, huge impact. I'm curious about the size of the library. I think currently it's about 10,000 square feet. Would it be bigger?
Yes, in fact, we've been considering in our, again, conceptual, about 20,000 square feet.
Wonderful, because that is a heavily used library, and that would be wonderful to increase. Also considering, because of my long time in Phoenix, I know that over the years the City Hall had changed locations based on the growth of the city, and I guess I would say in 40 years, how we travel, how we shop, how we do government is probably going to be very different anyway. And as the city moves south, I think you just reevaluate. I think what we're building here or considering here would always be viable economically anyway. If we wanted to build somewhere else, this property would still hold its, have a place and be substantial. The balance is not to overbuild either, and so you've got too much extra space. I mean, it's kind of a dance there. Would the property have access to or corridors to the Stark property? Way to get over, travel back and forth.
See if I can get there.
Stark.
The curtain. So the way that the site is set up right now is there would be access to the Bullard Wash, which is an amenity for a Class A office site. What we've talked about is working with Stark Industries to make this not appear like the back of a shopping center, to instead look to activate through landscaping, through different methods, but we have not started those conversations yet. But we do believe that they would also benefit from the walkability between all of these projects. And we've found them so far to be a very willing partner in other conversations, but we have not yet started that conversation.
Okay, that would be great. And do we have any idea, since we're creating something new, and I'm sure it's very preliminary, but sort of what the theme or the look of the building would be? I mean, we are creating something, and how's it going to look?
So have not, although it was fun in my research and getting ready for this presentation to watch the walkthrough of the last City Hall, which had a very modern feel to it. So I think that something that is timeless is typically what you see when you're seeking a City Hall concept. So as we go through programming and design, there would certainly be touch points with council and also with the community on the look and feel of that project and truly the entire square. The benefit of having a public-private partnership is that we would be essentially doing a build-to-suit with a developer through the Globe Corporation so that the buildings would have a similar design and feel around the square. Yes. The city building would be different. It needs to be unique. It needs to be stately. It needs to be a special place, but you would see design features that would tie the entire square together. So by having those buildings come up at the same time with the same developer gives you that opportunity.
Great. Thank you for all that information. I think this is a great project.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I asked to speak last, Julie, because I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say, and they've answered most of my questions. First of all, I'd like to thank Globe for coming forward to giving us an opportunity to put something together that our city has wanted for many, many years. I've lived here almost 20 years, and I know I am disappointed that we did not get our mall, and I'm hoping that by doing the city center and perhaps jump-starting this area, we will give our residents hope that we will continue to grow and provide amenities for them that they will be interested in. And the residents themselves want a city hall as bad as us sitting up on the dais, because I think we're the only council that doesn't have a designated city hall that's really a city hall. I mean, we have an interim, but we don't have our council chambers together, and we don't have all of our staff together, and we don't have meeting rooms, really. We're really limited. So this gives us an opportunity to really put Goodyear on the map, and it'll be exciting to design it. Julie, I do know that this bonding will have absolutely no effect on the police administration bonding. That'll be different, and that's going to be completed. Am I correct?
So we are about to release the 5-year city CIP.
See, I haven't had that yet, so I'm sorry. If you don't want to talk about it, it's okay.
No, that's okay. What I do want to say is that this project would not take priority over the recreation campus or the 2 fire stations. I think the timing of this project and the police ops 2 building is something that we're going to finesse a little bit, but we absolutely know it's a priority for council.
Okay, because I did have our notes that we'll be building the fire stations, and we're going to be doing other things, and we just don't want to be so excited to finish this that we keep pushing everything else back. Because like Sherry, I was on a committee 15 years ago, maybe longer. For the police station, the public safety, and that was our top recommendation, that this city build a police station and get all of our officers together under one roof. And here it is 2019, and we're not quite there yet, but I'm hoping that we continue to move forward. And to put a library in there, I think is a wonderful idea. We can make that, I think, our main library and then use our 10,000 square foot library here as a branch, which would work great. But I do see us really increasing the usage of that building if we do give them a bigger library. And even perhaps we can bring in other organizations that will want to use our library, which I think could maybe even help us with funding. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's something that we should do if we have this opportunity. I think we really need to move forward and do it. Just do it.
Mayor,
Well,
just one
Joe wants to have one more thing.
Just real quick, I think, Wally, when you see the 5-year plan, that's when we're going to have questions about all of this funding. So when you see it all come together in that 5-year plan on what's on their paper and the funding, I think that's going to answer your questions on what you're talking about.
Well, it's the mayor's turn. I just have to say, first of all, Mr. Getz, thank you. I sat in the meeting where it was like we all had the bubble above our head. The idea all came to us. And I'm so excited that you left that room with that thought in your mind, and you have pursued it and worked with our great staff, and they have got to this point. Needless to say, I'm thrilled. I spent a couple years, really a year and a half before it started, working on it, and then when it started, you know how long I spent, and that's why I ran for office. To see it built, and my biggest disappointment was the day I had to vote it down not to begin. And so I'm just thrilled. And we do have so much information from the public. And so if you have some fears or thoughts, I mean, it's just a bucket load. And we had people at that charrette. First of all, they said the charrette would not be successful. Well, it was successful, and it went on for 3 days. And people came with their children and you know, in the carriages, and they were so excited about it, and they were so forward in their thoughts, right, Sherry? So it was a success, and so I think it'll be the same way when this now will really get out to the public, and they'll be calling you and you know, suggesting things. So I think we need to kind of hold back on some of these other questions till staff presents it to us, because there will be reuse that could happen at the other library if this one is big enough for the time. And it's very close in proximity. So, and the other thing we don't have here at the City Hall, we don't have rooms for people to use, public to use in our City Hall. And so they'll have meeting rooms, I'm sure. That's what we had at the other ones. So they can be a part of our City Hall. So again, Julie, thank you. Thank you for being the one to, as a city manager, to have the strength and the vision to pursue this, because you came in on this, and I've been waiting for that, and I think we've had 4 city managers since I've been here on this, so I can't tell you how thrilled I am. So again, Mr. Getz, if you'd like to say something, you have the floor for a moment.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. You've lived here for 20 years. We've owned this property since 1970. It was a scallion farm out in the middle of the Goodyear farm way back in the day. So there's nobody more excited about this opportunity than we are. When we started this process, we really started with Westcor back in the day. Westcor was the predecessor to now Macerich, who bought them probably 10 to 15 years ago or so. And like anybody else, I'm just as disappointed that we didn't have more retail and more of a synergistic center out here than you are. And obviously, as the landowner for the rest of the land out there, we were banking on it as well, if you will. What this does is provide an anchor to this entire area, having the city locate out there. And I view it more as like an anchor tenant out there for the whole area. And this is the only catalyst that we will need to really kickstart this entire project and finish it off the way that it should be. I think we are pretty lucky in some respect that the recession came and we didn't have the mall built, because this area would have been turned into something different. And so we wouldn't be here today talking about it if that weren't the case. And so, as they say, as one door closes, another one opens. And I really feel like working with the city, and I'll tell you what, Julie and her staff, you should be very lucky to have her here with the city, because she and her staff have worked tirelessly to try to get it to this point as quickly as it has. And it's just been a joy to work with them and how quickly this thing could move. And so believe me, we are just as excited as I'm hearing about the voices around the table here tonight of what we can do. Let me just add one other thing. I did some work today on looking at office product on the west side. And as you know, most of the office tenants now are moving and relocating to the Southeast Valley. You're seeing a lot of announcements and companies wanting to come to the Southeast Valley. But all the workforce is really in the west side, and it's going to continue to be that way. And I think the tide's just about to turn from when people are going to stop looking in the Southeast Valley for office needs and start looking on the west side for office needs, because there's really no Class A office on the west side at all. And I think with the rest of what's planned for out here and the vision for everybody else, I think it's going to really be exciting for us, and that's why we're jumping on it as quick as we can. So thank you all for your time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call me. But we're tickled to death, and we're looking forward to working with your staff on this.
Great, thank you. And Julie, once more, thank you. Staff, thank you. You're brilliant. It's just wonderful to have your support. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and 6 o'clock we'll start the regular meeting. So this meeting adjourned.